Want to learn how we hire rock stars? This could be applied to how you hire a nanny or an office assistant, all the way to a tech automation specialist or somebody in your business. We're going to walk you through our step by step framework on how we hire A plus players.
I once heard this awesome presentation that like everything can be a funnel. And a funnel means like if you imagine a funnel in your mind, it starts really wide and gets narrow, 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 narrow until a little bit comes out at the bottom. And so you can do this in any of your life. So before you even start the process, just know that everything can be a funnel. And you hiring someone, whether it's someone to replace your roof or be a handyman or a nanny or someone in your business, you should treat it like a funnel because a funnel will weed out the people who are not a good fit and it'll get you the best of the best people. Just doing this one thing and the process we're going to take you through in our funnel steps will really take this to the next level. Now, you can have this be way more complex if it's for your business, or if you're just trying to hire a handyman from down the street, this can also work as well, but you're going to simplify it. So step number one is to see this like a funnel and just make sure you have multiple steps to the process. That way it just filters out people who are not a good fit. If you ask them to do something, they don't do it, not a good fit, right? Even if you're trying to like, let's say hire a handyman and you go on Yelp and you're like, there's like 10 people on there. Call every single one of those 10 people and just see who calls you back. Like that is one simple step to see like who's going to be responsive and who's going to answer your questions. Out of those 10 people, you might only have 4 people call you back within the next 24 hours. And out of those 4 people, you can ask some questions, you can narrow it down further. So you can see how this funnel process really helps you really hire the best people. I think the mistake that we would make previously is we would just like call 1 or 2 people and then we would just move forward, right? But we wouldn't really compare or look at a lot of different options. And depending on the complexity of the job or even the value of what they're creating in your company or your life, you definitely want to vet them. And for us, like having a nanny, that's a pretty serious thing. Having someone in our house, she's a nanny, she's a house manager. She's being with the kids throughout the day. Like we really wanted to vet this person and make sure they're legit. And so we're going to be talking about our nanny hiring funnel, but you can apply this to your business in any different position. But this is the process we implemented to go from 200 people who applied for this job to the one person who has it now.
And what Steven means by a funnel is you start really broad. So say you're hiring a nanny, like you have certain steps that you go through. So you start really broad. Like Steven said, we had like 200 people apply. Well, those 200 people, we sent an application. So then that weeds out some people. So you see how he's starting big and then we get smaller. And then through the application, it's like, and then send us a video thing. And then we asked them to do different steps. So it essentially weed out until we got to who we actually want to speak with in person and have interviews with. So you start really broad and then you narrow it down. That's what we mean by creating a funnel for any job out there.
So the second step is really to create the opening of the funnel, the biggest, widest area where you can just bring as many people in as possible. And so for us with the nanny thing, we looked at like sites like care.com. We looked at Indeed, and I also posted on my Facebook. So we basically put something out there on all 3 platforms. And that was just like putting like this big wide net out there of like, hey, this opportunity is coming up. And we wrote a compelling job description about the job with some stuff that even the stuff in the job description would weed out certain people because we don't want to spend all of our time going through every single applicant. We want to make sure it's a good fit. So we put stuff in there like we usually have you work this type of schedule. And we put the hours on there. You're going to be doing this type of thing, being with the boys, but you're also going to be doing these type of house things around the house. This, right? So we list all that out in the job description, but we also made it sound pretty cool. So you're going to get a lot of applicants for that role. We put this job out on our personal social media. We put it out on care.com. Where we got the most applicants though was indeed.com. So we put it out on Indeed and man, there was like, I don't know, 25 applications a day. I didn't even think in our small town we'd have that many applications. And it was pretty amazing the type of quality that was coming in. But we'll tell you the secret was a lot of people just apply for a lot of stuff. So you got to add another step to the funnel. So if you use a site like Indeed or LinkedIn, we've hired off of as well, you want to have a second tier to the application, not just like a little Indeed click of a button. So what we did is on Indeed, you can just send like an auto message and we said, hey, for everyone, every single person that applied that was basically in our town, we were just like, hey, you've been approved to the second round of the interview. Please go fill out this Google form. And we just had another like round of interview questions that happened on a Google form. And you guys, we lost 50% of the people right there. Just 50% of the people did not want to take the extra 5 minutes to fill out a second tier application. It's like, okay, you're obviously not that interested in this job if you're not willing to do that extra little 5 minutes.
So, step number 3, ask the right questions. So, after we funnel them through, we set them a specific, like another round of kind of interviews. Essentially, we had specific questions that we knew by asking them this, we would learn more about them and see if they were the right fit. So, for instance, one of the questions said, like, do you like being outside? Because our boys love being outside. They need to be outside every single day, whether it's raining, snowing, super hot out. They need to go outside. So we need to see if those who answer the question would say things like, oh yeah, I love being outdoors. I love hiking. I love doing this. And it would get them to explain and expand more.
Yeah.
Another question that is super important to us that we kind of found just doing some simple research is Steven and I work from home. So not only are we going to be interacting with our nanny on a day-to-day basis, but the boys are kind of in and out of our lives on certain work days. And some people don't like that. They don't want to interact with parents. They want to just like be with the kids and I guess maybe not feel like we're looking over the shoulder. And we don't do that with our nanny. We've never done that. It's more of like an amazing relationship we've built. But I know some nannies that just kind of turns them off right away. Like some people
Yeah.
don't want that.
So we asked, have you had any experience nannying alongside a work at home parent? If so, what were the pros and cons? So we kind of just asked about that, or what were the pros and cons you would see for this?
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. So basically the idea with this, whether you're hiring a nanny or whoever, is you might have 10 questions on this application. This is the second tier. Have enough questions where it's going to take them a little bit of time. You're going to weed out the people who are not serious, right? A lot of the questions were honestly fluff. It was like, do you have a car? Like, if they can get to work, it's okay if they don't have a car, right? But a lot of them were kind of fluff, but there was probably 3 questions in there that were like qualifier. We call them qualifier questions, where if they answered that question not the right way, we just marked them red on the spreadsheet. We're like, okay, not a good fit, right?
Yeah.
And so that really helped us weed it down. So we had like 200 people apply on Indeed. We had probably 95 people make it to the Google Sheet. And then out of those qualifier questions, we were able to narrow it down to about 25 people.
And the first time that we hired a nanny, like officially putting out a position, like I just happened to be someone that was a mutual friend of ours, like raised her hand. And so we chatted, we DM'd a little bit and then we hired her. So we didn't have to go through this whole process. And we would have loved, somebody that we already knew. So we did post it on our social medias, but I realized like our network, like we would have not found our awesome nanny if we wouldn't have explored some of these other options. And so of course we would have, like if we knew somebody or somebody stepped in, that would have been great, but that just wasn't the case for us. And I know a lot of other people have also struggled with finding nanny or reliable childcare or that. And this is one of the ways that really helped us.
And sometimes like in your business, you do hire people, but sometimes that is when you start actually going through this process, someone wouldn't actually get through this. They wouldn't actually pass the test. And if you actually ran a personality test on them or whatever, it just wouldn't actually be a good fit, but you just like, oh, I like them because I know them.
And that's not
and it's more
necessarily the
complicated.
best.
So we've kind of learned that as we've matured in our business and life, is that sometimes people are not the best. Sometimes it's nice because you have that trust there. But we were like, hey, even people we know for this one, let's put them through this process, because there were people we knew that went through this process and ended up not really making it to the final round. So we had it down to about 25 people now in our spreadsheet. So we added another layer. And again, like this is only because we didn't want to do very many in-person interviews.
No.
Like we just, time-wise, we didn't have the time. We just like, let's do it one more. But we want to kind of see and interact with the people a little bit. So we found a software called Video Ask. Video Ask, it's a thing made by Typeform, which is like a survey, online survey thing. And Video Ask allows you to do like, basically you can use it for anything, but we create a video interview on Video Ask. And so how Video Ask works, they can go to it on their phone. So we messaged those 25 people. We said, hey, you're on the 3rd round of applications. Congratulations. Like, only so many people have made it this far. We're interested in hearing just a few more things. And basically on Video Ask, you record the question, like selfie mode on your phone. Hey, thanks, for applying, blah, blah, blah. Tell me about a time that when, there was a stressful situation and how you responded to it. And then it pops up on their screen. Okay, get ready to answer. You have 60 seconds. And so it's just like they can record, and then they have to record their answer in 60 seconds or less. Now it does let them re-record. They didn't like the answer. They didn't nail it in 60 seconds. They can re-record, but you learn a lot about people from their language patterns, from how they talk, how they present themselves, the environment they're doing the video in. You can learn a lot from seeing like them and how they talk and how they interact. And so for Chelsea and I, that was a big one. We're very visual people like that. And so we wanted to make sure that like this person is top notch. And so that really weeded it down, I think, from 25 people to about 4. Again, we
Mhm.
had some qualifier questions on there. We're looking for certain types of answers, certain type of language patterns. And so that narrowed it down to about, I think it should actually 5 people. And then we did one last filter in the funnel. Actually, there's 2 last filters. Now, again, you guys might be thinking we're crazy for going through all this process, but you got to think like this is fairly automated. Like we haven't done much work besides setting this up.
Yeah.
Took me like, I don't know, a couple of hours to set up all these questions and things. But then it was just like texting people the stuff, sending an email to everyone. It wasn't our time of having to get on 200 different interviews. So when you
Mhm.
have something where there's just a lot of demand for it, there's a lot of attention on this thing, you really want to weed it down. You can take people through this many steps. Again, if your thing is like you just hire the handyman, maybe there's just 2 steps you take them through and it's not as intense.
Yeah.
But for this, someone who's being with our kids for a lot of the day and spending a lot of time with them, shaping who they are as humans and helping us,
That's a
partnering with
big
us on
deal.
that, it's a huge deal. After the video asked, we took them through 2 last steps. Okay. And so these are optional steps that you could add into your hiring A players. We took them through a personality test. So we asked them to go take the DISC test. We really like the DISC test, DISC. So we asked them to take the DISC test. You can get it through Tony Robbins' website, tonyrobbins.com/DISC. And we asked them to pay for the upgraded model because it gives you their motivators and gives you this like chart that we've done a lot of learning on how to really read those charts and how to know like how those people are wired based on their personality type. And
Mhm.
DISC is one of those ones that gives you a lot of insight on someone's motivators. There's a motivator that's called altruism, right? Like giving back, like being a part of something. And there's a motivator called economic, which means like, I want to see ROI. I'm more interested in the money. And that's not a bad thing, but it's just good to know how people are wired so
Mhm.
you can speak their love language. You can communicate to them in the right way so that we're working together to do something together. We want to make sure that we're communicating. So DISC is really a good tool for learning how to communicate to people. And so if you're into personality tests, you could have them take one that like you are a fan of.
Mhm.
But for us, DISC is one of those things. And out of the 5 people who had to do the DISC, only 4 did the DISC. And so that narrowed it down. And then of those 4 people, we did in-person interviews.
Mhm.
And what we did for that, that's the last step, is do an in-person interview with someone on your team or you. And basically, we just blocked like a time at the coffee shop. They have like these like co-working rooms. We just blocked a big old block of time. We just did them
Mhm.
back to back, and just got them all done.
Yeah, and we paid them back we reimbursed them for that DISC test and we told them that. So that's something that you can do as well. But I just feel like somebody that you are interacting with on a regular basis, that's in your home, that you're on Zoom with, that you're having work with your customers. I do think it is a big deal to understand personalities. That has given us a lot of insight into even who we are as people, our team member, maybe that somebody, if you have a bigger team or a growing team, you might want to hire a different DISC profile so that there's
Mhm.
balance on your team. Now, of course, like a handyman, like I'm probably not going to send like my handyman a DISC
Yeah.
profile. But I think for more certain things, it is really important to know that about them. But regardless of what you're hiring, like I do think that there should be like a level of questions. And of course, I love word of mouth. We go off of that a lot, especially for things around our home or a friend referred this or seeing their work. Like I think that's important too. But I just think there should be entryways, especially if it's somebody who's in a more intimate role with you and your family.
Yeah. Now, the last step I'm going to cover here, and then we have like a bonus step for you. So, the last step is do a 90-day test. So,
Mhm.
after you've like kind of officially made that person a job offer, you've hired them, communicate to them in that process that I always bring people on as a 90-day trial and
Mhm.
we'll just work together, we'll make it happen. At the end of the 90 day, we'll do an assessment, just make sure it's good for us both to continue. It's just a really good way to give yourself an out if it's not a good fit.
Mhm.
You could even make that short. You do a 30-day test, but for us, we find 90 days is really good. And then usually at that point, we roll them over to an employee status or whatever that is. So
Mhm.
something could maybe unlock at the 90 days, whether it's bonus or who knows what.
Mhm.
But it's nice to do a 90-day test and just communicate that up front, and just people know like that's part of the process. So let's recap the steps. Okay, 1, see it as a funnel. See this process as a funnel, whether it's a complex funnel like you just heard for the nanny. People thought we were crazy with that thing, but like, man, we have a rock star nanny because of
Mhm.
that. And she does not just nannying, she does house management. So she manages anyone who comes to our house, like, lawn guys and trash guys and contractors. She does stuff around the house. She's organized. Those are all things we built into the job description because we weren't just looking for a nanny. We're looking for someone who can do a lot of stuff to free up our time. Okay. So see it like a funnel, right? Number two, write a compelling job description that really tracks that right person. Okay. Number three, ask the right questions and have those qualifier
Mhm.
questions in there. One other thing, I'll give you a little bonus tip in the job description. This will weed out a lot of people on like, if you're using a site like Indeed or LinkedIn, just put like even something like, if you've read this job description, use the word sweet potato in your response.
Yeah.
Like, and just having a little thing like that shows me that they pay attention. I
Mhm.
remember when we hired an executive assistant, it was like, hey, if you're interested in this job, email this email, make it this font size, make it this color. And it was a couple other things because, like, if you're hiring an executive assistant, they need to have an attention to detail. And so
Mhm.
they can't follow that first step, then they're not a good fit for the job. So
Mhm.
feel free to sneak something like that into your job description, and then you're going to weed out probably 25% of the people right there. Okay. So step number three, ask the right questions. Step number four, if you want to throw in a personality test, it's been really helpful for us in
Mhm.
hiring people. Step number five, do a 90-day test. Okay, so that is our hiring funnel for hiring A plus players. If you're applying for our team, just know you're going through a funnel. Okay, and I'll give you one bonus one that's just really helpful for ongoing communication with
Mhm.
a new team member, as well as expectations. We got this from our buddy Josh Stevens. He runs an e-commerce company. I don't think he came up with it, but he shared his document. That's like, oh, that's awesome. So it's called a 4R document.
Mhm.
4R. R as in responsibilities. Okay. And
Mhm.
so there's 4 R's, and you just put them on a document, and you just like, when you present someone the job, you're like, here's the 4R document. We even have it usually in the job descriptions. Like, here's a short, catchy job description. Here's
Mhm.
the 4R doc that
Yeah.
covers everything about the job. And so what the 4R doc covers, I'm just going to read ours to you so you can kind of see the four sections. It's role. What is the job? Like, what's it about? What's your role? Right? Responsibilities. Okay. So for the nanny, it was like, here's all the kid responsibilities. Here's all the house responsibilities. Okay. The next one is results. Like, what is the result that you're going to provide to our family, to our kids?
Mhm.
And what are the requirements? Like, what are some proficiencies or things you might need coming into this? Okay. And then if you want a bonus R, it's rate. You can put the rate on there as well so that it's just like fully everything is communicated right up front. This is what you're doing in
Mhm.
this role, in this job. There's a responsibilities. Here's the results we expect. And this is what you come back to when you're kind of like, after 90 days, you like look at the document. You're like,
Mhm.
are we doing these things? Right. Is this all good for you? And it's when they agree to the job, they're agreeing to that 4R doc. I'm going to do all these things, right? For that rate that's on the doc as well.
Mhm.
And so the bonus tip is when you bring someone in for that 90-day test, create some sort of rhythm or weekly kind of check-in where they're reporting back to you certain things from the 4R doc. We call this a scorecard. Some people call it KPIs, but like, it's just like, even for the nanny thing, we don't do this particularly. Like, hey, did you take the trash out this week? Like, we're not checking in on those things so we see it. But for roles in our business, 100%, we have things
Mhm.
like this where it's like, how much of this got done? How much of that got done? And we have them self-report it to us so that it allows us to see that, like, okay, progress is being made here. We're
Mhm.
growing in this area without having to micromanage or anything like that.
All right. So go out there, start making hires. No, but we really hope that the next time you have to make a hire, whether it's for your personal life or maybe you're thinking about, like, I don't even know how I would do that or what kind of questions we have, make sure to save some of these little points. I think just asking really good questions, having clear communication up front. We talked a lot about that. So the next time you're going to hire someone for your business or your personal life, go ahead and refer back to this. And with it, I believe you're going to hire some rock stars. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom, you can get that call at makeitrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeitrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast.